So I think what we'll do is, in the interest of time, we'll get started. And people, if they're joining us, they're welcome to join us. And maybe another person. Good morning, sir. How are you? Take a seat. Thank you. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Ko Govardhana tako Monga, ko Ganga tako Ava, ko Rajput tako Iwi, ko Shekhawat tako Whānau, ko Raj tako Ingoa, no Inia aho, ke Mangare tako Kainga, ko Mutu aku korero e tēnei wā, no rera e te kaiako e aku kua mahi, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Good morning, everyone. Lovely to have you all here this morning. So today I'll be talking more about instructor-made videos. So to understand them slightly better, let's start with multimodal stimulation. So when you hear the word multimodal stimulation, what is the first thought which comes to your mind? Probably feel free to scribble down on one of these sticky notes on your table. Have a quick chat with the person sitting next to you and write down what do you feel about what is multimodal stimulation. There you go. There you go. Fantastic. You can do it as a group. So have a chat with the person sitting next to you. Feel free to share your own views as well. So it's multimodal stimulation.
Yes, multiple formats presenting the content of sound, video, pictorial presentation.
Awesome. So what we'll do is we will get back here, and I want you to randomly shout from your tables what you guys discussed. What do you think this multimodal stimulation according to this group here?
I think what we've written is multiple types of inputs and multiple types of media. So representing the content in different formats: textual, pictorial, audio, video.
Fantastic. What about this group here?
Okay, yeah, well, we were thinking the same thing, but along the lines of you see this often like universal design principles, universal design for learning principles in terms of multimodal approaches. I guess that ties a bit into Gardner's multiple intelligences theories, right? The way that you approach a diverse range of students.
Cool, fantastic. Anything else you guys want to share, or others?
I think the word stimulation after it, and it's kind of also hits an information overload. So while UDL is great, the understanding should be there's multiple modes of looking at your learning and understanding the content of the learning experience. You should really be focusing on one of those, not two of them at the same time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Good point. This table here?
I guess to add to that, you were sort of picking up on the stimulation and thinking about in terms of arousal, engagement, that kind of idea, and also the multi-modes, and we had some discussion around what the modes are, video, what else.
Brilliant. Okay, great. Lot of valuable thoughts. So what we'll do is let's experience something here. What I want you to do is I want you to quietly read through what's written here as quickly as you can. We have a couple of seconds to read this.
Oh my goodness.
So once you're done, you can raise your hands. A few people done. Yes. Yes. Good. Cool. Fantastic. Okay. So, what do you think this is? Yes, Tony.
It's an advert.
It's an advert. Okay. So when you're reading it, what can you imagine?
I'm imagining the advert,
Okay. So you've seen the advert.
and I know the script.
Okay. Fantastic.
By heart.
So those of us who haven't seen this advert, have you guys seen this advert? Okay. So when you're reading this, what's going in your mind? Anyone? What do you think?
It's a conversation.
It's a conversation happening between two people. That's right. Great. Now let's go to the next step. Auditory. Let's have a listen.
Bobby, it's Keith. I was driving along Dundas Lane. There was a pig in the middle of the road. Anyone over there know anything about it?
No, mate. You're in a different valley. No one knows a thing.
No one. Yeah, you don't know anyone out that way who has pigs.
Mark Creek. No, I'm not too sure over there.
That's a wee one.
Guy just down the road from me that's got a couple of pigs.
Yeah, it's not mine.
You don't know anything about looking after pigs?
Not really. I just know they taste all right.
Any luck? Didn't know a thing.
I got your email about Sue, the pig. I could bring her back to you tomorrow or the next day, this afternoon. Okay, I'll see you then.
So after hearing this, after listening to that script, do you think that added anything to your sort of imagination about what was going on there? Yeah? What do you think was happening there?
I started to picture the road environment, or because of the sound coming in,
Absolutely.
it gave me an indication of what kind of environment they are driving through.
Fantastic. So when we were reading just the textual material, that was very different. We were relying totally on our imagination. Then when we started hearing sounds, it gave you a little bit of more clarity in terms of what's happening. You could sort of visualize. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Fantastic. Great. Now what we'll do is we'll move on to the third modality, which is visual. Okay. So we'll be seeing now what's happening here. Now, after looking at the visuals, do you think it has added anything to your imagination or to the story which was building up in your mind? Yes, no? Do you think it
There's a little bit of problem that we all know the story. So it makes it
So
difficult.
those of us who haven't seen this commercial, who started just by reading the script first, to hearing it, to then seeing it, do you think every step is adding something to what you're sort of witnessing at all? Yeah? Okay, great. Now let's move on to the final one, which is a combination of all of these things.
driving along Dundas Lane and there was a pig in the middle of the road. Anyone over there know anything about it?
No, mate, you're in a different valley. No one knows a thing.
No one. Yeah, you don't know anyone out that way who has pigs.
No, correct. No, I'm not too sure over there.
No, it's a wee one.
Guy just down the road from me that's got a couple of pigs.
Yeah, it's not mine.
You don't know anything about looking after pigs?
Not really. I just know they taste all right.
Any luck?
I didn't know a thing.
I got your email about Sue, the pig. I could bring her back to you tomorrow or the next day. This afternoon. Okay, I'll see you then.
Alright, so I have seen this a zillion times, but every time I go to the final video when there's a, the textual material is there, there's sound is there, and of course there's a video there as well. And for me personally, it makes a totally different impact altogether. When it's written as free pork range and the guy looks at the pig, and it triggers a strong emotional response compared to when I would just hear it or just try to read it or just try to see it without the other components. So anyone here could feel something similar? Did you think that the combination of all that was slightly better off? Yeah. So I'm a clinical audiologist by training, and I do a lot of research around brain and the networks in the brain, and how when we just hear a sound, it travels from our ears to finally our brain, and then we have this auditory area which try and analyze the sound, its physical features, and then it connects to the frontal lobe or the emotional system, and it makes a holistic meaning of whatever thing we have heard. So that's what multimodal means, like getting a stimulation from various modalities, and how some people get triggered more by a particular modality compared to other. It varies. So what's happening in the universities is, if you look at the past 20, 30 years, when I was a student in the university, my experience was completely different. I think at that stage, the technological advancements were very different. The levels were very different compared to what we have now. There's an exponential growth in technological innovation which is happening. And as a result of that, the learners are totally different compared to what they were 20, 30 years back. So for me, I would just sit in a lecture theater, and our professors would come and they would talk, and we would jot down most of the things, go to the library, read from the books, and that's how things will go further. However, all that has changed massively, big time. We have experienced this, yeah? Do you guys feel things are different when you went to the university compared to what's happening now? Yes, no? What sort of changes, we'll talk about, what sort of changes do you think have happened, compared to when you went to university and compared to what's happening now?
Well, we were talking earlier, and a long time ago I studied to become a teacher, and we had to tape record our lesson, whereas now you have a video or a 360 video. So yeah, that's an example.
That's different. You have a different view? You think it hasn't changed much, Tony?
I think the technology has advanced wonderfully. And so, for example, if you wanted a slide, slide pane, I had to go to the medical photography group and wait 2 weeks for me to produce a slide.
Yes.
But I had but I still projected the slide. And then because Rob and I have a sort of zoology background, but David Attenborough came out, we were able to project in the 80s, mid-80s, we were able to project sections of life on Earth in videos to illustrate the great lectures. So when I was taught to lecture, training college, teacher education college, and in my department, we use multi-modes.
Okay, that's good.
We use interactive handouts, slides, videos. What else do we use? Is there anything else to use?
Just demonstrate audio.
Okay,
Yes, but yeah.
brilliant. So that's a great experience you have.
But very different today
Yes,
in a sense.
of course. What about this group here? Do you think things were very different when you went to the university than what's happening these days?
Certainly my university experience was 500 people in a big room and one little person at the front would just write. I don't know how this man could write so fast and talk so fast at the same time.
Wow.
And for 50 minutes you would just walk out and that was it. So I don't think there was any much care for us in any way. Also, take it and cope or not.
So
it has changed a bit, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is there was no personalization of learning for the learners, isn't
We had
it?
tutorials as well, which were a bit different than
Okay.
like today. But
Okay, cool. All right, so
I had a funny thing on that, just on the topic of visual. I was reading a history of the Auckland College of Education, which is now part of the University of Auckland, and they had a Visual Education Association in 1932, in which they were recording film strips and distributing them to schools around the Auckland area. So
fantastic.
I guess things change and they stay the same, but that was an interesting tidbit. They were also doing radio stuff from 1933 to 1942. So.
Right.
Yes, the other thing was demonstrations done in the lectures, where they would bring physical things into the lectures, and sometimes models,
Yes.
big things on the lecture being illustrated. So I think there was a move, or a recognition, at least in the sort of early to mid-80s, of that sort of thing.
Yep. Yes.
I was also thinking too that from the student's perspective, I think there's been a huge change in accessibility to digital media and the way we teach. Perhaps I mean the idea of getting students to create a web page was years ago was quite novel.
Yes.
You know, or to make a video or something like that. And now it's so much easier and quicker, and you can sort of see changes. I think in perhaps the assessment or the tasks that students do because of digital media.
Absolutely, and I think I totally hear what you're saying, and I think in the past 10, 15 years, things like YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and so many of these things have come which they probably didn't even exist, and they have changed the way we sort of communicate and the way we interact and the way we learn. And I think with this change and with this evolution in this technological advancements, I think somewhere it's also important us as academics or as teachers to also sort of be mindful of the change which is happening to our learners and adapt accordingly or offer accordingly. For example, if my kids they don't want to eat veggies and I really want to make sure that they eat veggies, so I need to come up with creative ways of putting those veggies together so it looks really attractive and delicious to them, and it engages them basically. So it's important to package things accordingly, and I think sometimes, based on my experience, I remember a few years back when I started getting into these things, I thought this is too hard, it's too difficult, and I didn't feel comfortable, and then over a period of time, I realized that, in my case, it happened organically, but I think some of these things are super easy. And once you start practicing some of those things, it actually makes a lot of difference in the kind of engagement you see with students. And in fact, things like before the students even get to see you physically, if you somehow communicate using some of these things, they feel a strong connection. So I remember the few of the comments which students offered during the evaluation was, we sort of knew you before even meeting you. I don't know if that makes sense. So I feel half the battle is won there itself. The students are sort of relate to you, they connect to you. So what we'll do is, we will talk very quickly about instructor-made videos. Now, instructor-made videos are slightly different than a usual lecture recording or a usual 20-30 minutes of capture of the screen. These are videos which are made by the instructors and they are very focused. So they are a short span videos which are made by the instructor, and they are usually focused around a particular topic, which could be slightly challenging for students if they encounter it for the very first time on their own. So, I mean, it could vary from discipline to discipline. But for example, if I am teaching a class about audiology, and I know that there is a particular concept which can be slightly challenging for students if they just try to read, you know. And if I'm trying to use my time in the class to actually explain it to them, and if I have to repeatedly explain it a few times, the good approach could be you create a focused instructor-made videos around 4 to 5 minutes explaining that concept well. And then you could use it in a flipped classroom, or you could upload it well in advance, so the students have kind of visited that. So it's not as new for them, that concept itself. So that's what instructor-made videos means. And I think there's some research which is happening in the last few years which shows that the net geners, or the students these days, they are consuming more and more audiovisual materials. It could be based on their education, it could be based on things in general, you know. Little kids are accessing YouTube, they're watching YouTube videos, and a lot is happening that side, and they feel that inclination towards this material. And there's also early research which shows that that these videos, they can be really good in terms of engaging with the students, and also in terms of scaffolding the content-focused things. And also, it makes learning a bit more engaging and appealing. Now, in terms of the best practice of these instructor-made videos, I'm going to talk about these 4 aspects. The first is duration, which is extremely important. So what it shows is, of course, there are signature pedagogies and discipline variations, but on an average, the duration should be shorter, around 4 to 5 minutes, certainly not more than 10 minutes. Because we all know that the student attention anyways drop after 15 minutes of sitting in a lecture. So I still find it hard to understand why at some places, in fact at many places, we have lectures which are 3 hours long, where just one person is going on and on and on. And if you closely observe the students, you will know that they're not engaging for sure. I find it so hard to engage myself if the lecture is for like 3 hours long. So the duration has to be short for these videos, 5 to 10 minutes max. That there has to be a particular focus. It's not a generic thing. So the IMVs are focused on a particular concept or an idea, or it could be related to a particular assessment or a particular content. So there has to be focus of this video. Third, of course, alignment and planning. So it must align with your objective of the class or of the course. And it also requires a little bit of planning. It's not that you just kind of turn up in front of the camera and just start talking about something. It does require a little bit of planning about how exactly you're going to address a particular topic. So these are few key components about instructor-made videos best practice. What I will also do is I will share an example of instructor-made videos. This is something which was created a couple of years back. And the reason we created this particular video was it was linked to a particular assessment which was new. So the students have to write a blog for the very first time in a year 3 paper. And a lot of their concern was like, why the hell blog? Like, we are not bloggers. Why are we expected to even write a blog in the first place? And you know, and I haven't written a blog before. I mean, in my first year and the second year, my assignments were completely different. So how do I even approach this? So there was a time where I would have repeated meetings with the students, and they'll have lots of questions around these things. So we decided, okay, how about we made a focused video which actually addresses some of these concerns? And that was done, and I'm going to share that with you. And I promise you have probably not seen this before, so let's have a quick look at this one. Questions about your second assignment?
Yes, I do. Second assignment is about writing the blog. Now, personally, I'm not a blogger. I've never written any blog in my life, but so I just don't really see a point of why do we need to write a blog for a placement project.
Now, Dennis, it's absolutely okay that you have not written blogs before. There'll be many students who have not written blogs before, so that's absolutely fine, okay? I don't expect my students to be professional blogger anyways. But tell me one thing, do you often think about things when they happen in general in life?
Yes, I do. I mean, sometimes I do think about, in terms of basketball, sometimes I do tend to think about how I play for my games.
Do you think about that, oh, I've done this error, so I'll try not to do it, or I've learned this thing from this game and I'll try and incorporate that? Do you have these questions in your mind a few times?
All the time, because I mean, that's what makes you a better player.
Exactly. That is what you just mentioned, that thinking about things makes you a better player. Exactly the same way, the purpose of writing a blog is to think about an instance which has happened and think through it in detail, following the guidelines which we have given you, so that you can become a better professional.
Right. So, but then how do I...
So in this minute and a half, we have tried to address this whole thing about why blogs, and why is it relevant? As a student, so there's a role play happening here. We have one person who is a student, other person who is the teaching staff, and there's a conversation happening between them. This was discussed, but it wasn't scripted as such. So we didn't memorize these lines, but we of course talked through some of these things. So in this minute and a half, it basically addresses why you should be writing blog, and we are giving a generic example about, in general, we do think about things, we do reflect on things, and here is an opportunity to actually do it more formally in writing.
I write a blog.
So we have given you a detailed guideline on the course book about how you should be writing a blog, but to make it even more simpler, I just developed this acronym.
So we have plugged in the course book, that there is a description in the course book, detailed description. Of course, this is a short video, so if you're really keen, please go ahead and have a quick look at that as well. And we're going to try and simplify it here as well a bit more.
Which is IRLR. So you need to remember these 4 letters.
IRLR.
Precisely. To make it even more simpler, it's like I, Raj, love reading.
Right, okay.
So what these 4 components stand for is, the first one, I, is the instance. Any thought-provoking instance which you have observed, or any story which has touched you while you were at the placement journey, you need to describe it very briefly as the first component. Okay? Once you have done that, the second very important component is relevance. So how is that relevant to your organization and to you? So you need to describe that in detail. Once you have done that relevance, then you need to come on the third very important component, which is learning. So what have you learned from this whole story? And finally, the most important component is the resources. So what else you could do to improve yourself on that particular skill is what you need to describe in the resource towards the end.
So in this component, what we've done is we've tried to outline what exactly are the components of writing blogs, what they basically mean. And in the next few seconds, what's going to happen is, now the student is going to repeat those things. This is, I as a teacher, I'm telling you this is what it is, and the student is going to repeat that what their perception of what they've just grasped now.
I see. So just making sure I am on the right track. I'll try to repeat myself.
Absolutely.
Repeat what you just said. So firstly, I need to describe an issue, an incident that has happened during my placement.
Exactly. Anything thought-provoking which has captured your attention, which you observed, which you found interesting, you need to describe that.
Cool. After that, I will then need to make relevance of the incidents to either myself or the placement.
Exactly.
Or the organization.
To both.
To both.
So you need to talk about how exactly that instance is relevant to the organization and to you personally as well.
So what is happening here is the student is actually repeating that, this is what my take is, is this what you mean? And I'm sort of pitching in a little bit extra. So when we talk about relevance, so the student doesn't only need to talk about its relevance to them, but also to the organization they're placed with. So basically, and then it goes on for another minute. So this is a little example of a focused instructor-made video around their particular assignment. And we have used this in the past few years, and we've received a lot of comments from students that how, first of all, they thought it was easier for them to sort of understand what this particular assignment is and how they need to approach it. If they still had questions, of course, we had class time. We could use part of that. We had online discussions. So there were a lot of other forums as well. But before only simply relying on a written course book, they thought that this was really an additional help to them, and they could watch it anytime they want, they could watch it repeatedly if they want, and it sort of gives that personal touch to their understanding. So what we are going to do now is, we'll do a little activity now. Most of us are carrying smartphones here, and the idea is that we will create a little video in a group. So you just need one phone per table, and this video could be around anything. It could be about any hypothetical situation. It could be something, what you are engaged in right now, but work together as a group. It should be very short. It should be focused on a particular aspect. If you want, all of you can feature in that video. If you want just one or two person having a conversation, it's totally up to you how you want to do it creatively. Some of you, if you want to do it here, you can do it. You want to go outside, somewhere in this building, outside, out of this building, whatever. So in terms of the timing, what we'll do is, now it's 9:20. How about we come back at, say, in 15 minutes? So say 9:35. So, and the idea is just create a little video. It could be about a course you teach. It could be about something totally different. Be as creative and flexible as you can be. All right? Any questions we have? And then we'll be sharing those here, and we'll be talking a little bit about them. It'll be an opportunity for us to be in that video and see how comfortable or uncomfortable you feel about it. Yeah.
Just a question, if we come back at 9:35 and we're sharing 3 videos, when we go past 9:40?
We'll just use 5 minutes of extra time. It's because we started a little late. Otherwise, we could share it online with each other.
Or we could make the videos quicker.
That's brilliant. Okay, let's come back in 10 minutes in that case. Is that all right with everyone?
That's all it takes.
Fantastic, let's do that. All right, there you go.
As long as we're not doing talk.
No, because I help academic staff use technologies that are not used for in teaching. So yes, hands-on training as a Yes, absolutely.
You feel free to go out if you want to. Yeah.
Creative is the same when involved walking.
Coming popular in social groups that teachers assign to students. So the guidance we have is that does not require you to take instructions on it. You can use your phone. You just want to pay attention to the line, how much light you are casting your things, the angle. It's getting video science.
That is getting popular.
It's really authentic learning assistance. Like video can capture real life scenarios, conversations.
That's important to think about some of those components as well. Yeah.
The tree, that's the tree.
How is it? Got the flow to the nothing right. We can talk about how can we take videos or teach where does it fit? Is it needed? Characteristics just because effective video assignments. Characteristics effective use of video. I like the idea. Instruction strategy. I don't have the answers to these questions, but it's just.
We definitely show us
Yeah, we need the learning teacher versus teacher.
learning designer process might end up in the same seems to be I can use my phone for
No, I don't. So I have various different forms of participation.
Is it voice over slides or you also film yourself?
That is usually voice over
Interesting.
Yep, my phone hacked, sorry.
So you can rewind.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe if you can share so that they can capture screen.
Yes, sorry about that.
No, it's okay, it's okay. So do we want
That's a good rehearsal.
do we want to just ask?
Absolutely, yeah.
Shall I ask?
Yeah, you can see this. You guess the same.
You can make it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay. I'm fine, how are you? So do you use your teaching?
I do use things. So, that's all. So, videos is actually my way.
So are you saying that the course is online? So you lecture, sorry, you record your lectures. All of them.
I lecture basically from my office. So that's different forms. I like record myself. And then I'm forming screencasts. So
What do you take into consideration or how people in terms of, for example, like content?
Yeah, like this interesting aspect. I know that there's a general rule, keep them short. But I guess if I had so much material to teach, I can either jump
Let's finish on that note.
Yes.
or I do is instead of maybe I need 20 minutes to teach. I don't photo. And my thing is, we are charged of replaying the video. If you get tired after 5 minutes, just press the pause and come back.
Okay. So you are you've got a topic that you think requires 3 minutes of video. Do you then make another video for another topic within the same
Yeah.
lesson?
Look, I basically, I agree that maybe a 50 minutes lecture and also we have, I just sort of say where are natural.
Yes, so what we'll do is we'll share via Zoom. We have Zoom now. Okay, so
I sometimes if you cancel the students, you might stop here. But I don't feel that I have to concentrate in 5 minutes.
Okay.
Because I feel that they can.
Some people think that by providing focused questions for the students before they watch, that help them focusing on the content of the video, and also providing questions can help them focus when they are watching the video. Are you doing?
No, I haven't, look, I've integrated into my videos questions for the students. So it's taken
Okay.
But one thing I've recently seen also technology is advancing basis to intelligence. That I would like to the videos for comments. We can do the intake. And so that we have targeted discussion. Students can that's something that can be much easily accessible.
Are you asking the students to come and develop videos? I mean, currently, are you thinking of asking to have videos?
I do make some courses, but So I met the video I have a third year course with a project the assignment of myself. So that's basically great presentation.
We all good, Johnny?
Yep.
Okay, so should we start by yours?
We need to splice this together. We're going to quickly talk about top line. That's 4 minutes.
Okay, perfect. Now Johnny will be helping all of us to sort of set them out on the screen.
Yeah, okay, so sit down, that's okay.
You can Zoom install it?
Yes.
Use our real
How long is it?
There's no network label.
Do you have a Zoom? You can Zoom. I think he has. Yes.
We can just put it on the iPad.
Yeah, well, that's one Cal connect the Wi-Fi for a year. Hang on, I can drop it to the computer. We need to put that everything on.
Can you find it? Oh, yeah, cool.
That's all three.
Oh, okay.
We've got 3 versions.
Well, that's why we've got to splice them together.
Oh, fantastic. And all together, 2 minutes, is it?
One on
Yeah, you're on. Wow, so it's like 30 minutes, 30 seconds, 30 seconds, 30 seconds. That's very good, isn't it?
I'll work on my computer as well. We just need to sit down. Because even if it's on, I was working as well. Yeah, it's easier.
So you can share the videos.
Yes, so it's like Skype, but it does much more than Skype. You could break if a lot of people have joined online, break them virtual rooms. And now that there's a virtual preset, have their discussions and the same. You can do a lot of stuff crazy. So if someone is traveling to class, Zoom sessions the university has an account.
Yeah, that one's.
Oh, the audio should be video as long as the audio is fine.
Oh, yeah.
You're here as well? Yeah, fantastic. Who should we go first with? If you're ready, Patrick, you could play.
Okay, that would be interesting. Settings, control apps, customizations, and recording. Okay, so I need to add screen to recording under settings, where it's.
It's okay, I think I'm
Getting settings app controls.
Alright. I want to do in the morning.
Excellent.
Yeah, should we just play it? Do you guys want to say a few things about it and then we'll start playing it?
You're just being designed. So you guys can go first if you like.
Okay, yep.
And then so you can go some share hands.
Oops, sorry.
It's okay.
I should stop sharing. Yep. You can share. Oh, are they doing first or?
You do first. Okay.
Just let share screen there. Take over there. And pause. Actually, have them do it first.
Okay. There is files. Oh, well, this is this one. Where else? Videos though.
Let's go.
No, it's okay. It's okay. It's not custom there. Share screen.
Yeah.
It's recording my screen. Like, I don't want you recording, I want you custom. I need to go back into settings.
Sure, she was.
We're ready to go.
Are you ready to
Ready to go, yeah.
Yep.
Just,
No worries.
Okay.
You went to
So
the
we
wrong
went-
school.
We went on location. So shall I just go? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, it is, but it's there's a bit of a delay because of the connection, I suspect. Try that again.
Why don't we just stand around your screen?
Oh, it was a good teacher.
I've always had trouble streaming video via Zoom.
Let's have a look there.
You can reenact it if you want.
We have to go on location, so let's make sure the volume is cranked up as much as it can be. Alright. Yeah, well, it's on the sound. I'll just go on.
No, it's coming out of that.
Do we have your video? Yes.
So are you talking about the construction of this building and how it's the old building? Did you go to that area? Which has several my picture to a field trip?
If it's just a talking head, I think yes, it's sort of more.
Yes. In the meanwhile, can you explain what was this video about? Yours?
It was about, well, you'll see it in the first sentence. If you can hear it.
More from
Legacy Worldwide Education Next.
With the third one?
Do we have time?
That was brilliantly done. The cameraman's work was
Yes.
I think you always have very interesting points, I mean, especially your video. I mean, I think it's right. It's not that it's
Maybe we just go.
it was not that it's replacing the format, and I think it's kind of supplementing it. And what Carol said as well, that it doesn't necessarily have to be 5 or 10 minutes. It could be slightly longer if that's what is required based on the discipline specific thing, as long as it's sort of focused on something. And you guys just going on the actual location, it absolutely served the whole thing, I think, you know.
The actual retention thing is around snapping their attention back in as well. Yes. So if you had a 20-minute flat conversation at the same time, they'll lose concentration. But like with that one, it's like, here's a concept, bang, snap,
Yes.
and we change the scene with some lovely animations.
Yeah.
So I think even in video, it's the same as a lecture. You have to find ways of re-engaging them in this.
That's exactly right. You take those principles and put them into video. They work.
And there's research indicating that after 8 to 12 minutes, the concentration drops.
Yeah, and we actually have analytics for video where you can actually see, where do people stop, where do people pause, where do people go, and the timeline is usually something like
Drops
that.
down, yeah.
And you can actually pinpoint quite accurately where you lost people in your video, which is great for, reflecting and refining on whatever you're presenting.
Cool. Well, look, guys, thank you so much for coming here today. And it's lovely to interact with you. And I'm doing some work around e-mentoring as well. So I'll chat with Rob about it. And do keep in touch in case if you want to talk to me more. Thank you, Johnny.
So
appreciate it.
So it works on Android, but it doesn't work on iPhone.
iPhone, yeah. It's okay.
Oh, well, that was just good having a little group session.
It was, yeah. So we can just close this now and.